Have you ever wondered how the region of Tuscany, known for its beautiful landscapes, came to be? How did it evolve from a republic to a grand duchy? Welcome to the enigma that is Tuscany, a region that has undergone numerous transformations, from the Republic of Florence to the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, which stood proudly from 1569 to 1860. This captivating historical journey is filled with art, architecture, and aristocracy. Before we delve deeper into this fascinating tale, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more intriguing historical videos. The story of the Grand Duchy begins with the rise of the illustrious Medici family. The Medici clan, originally from the Mugello region of Tuscany, managed to ascend to prominence in Florence, the capital of the Grand Duchy, through shrewd economic strategies and political maneuvering. As bankers to the Pope, they wielded significant influence within the Papal States, often tipping the scales in papal elections. The Medici rule, which spanned nearly 2 centuries until 1737, was marked by economic prosperity and military might. Under the reign of Cosimo III de' Medici, Tuscany thrived, its coffers swelling with the profits of trade. Cosimo was not merely a shrewd businessman, he was also a visionary leader who understood the importance of infrastructure for economic growth. He undertook massive projects, draining marshlands to create fertile agricultural fields, and constructing extensive road networks to facilitate trade and movement. But the Medici's legacy is not confined to economics or politics. They were renowned patrons of the arts and sciences, fostering the growth of the Renaissance in Florence. Under their rule, the city became a vibrant hub of innovation and creativity, home to luminaries such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Galileo Galilei. Their passion for knowledge and culture was mirrored in their grand architectural projects, transforming Florence into a city of spectacular palaces and churches. The Medici family's influence, however, was not without its detractors. Despite criticism and opposition from other European powers, they managed to maintain their rule, often through strategic alliances and marriages. They skillfully navigated the complex political landscape of the time, ensuring the survival and prosperity of their dynasty. The Medici's influence was not only felt in Tuscany, but across Europe, as they navigated opposition and criticism to maintain their rule. Their dominance in Tuscany, their contributions to the arts and sciences, and their ability to maintain power despite opposition, all contribute to the enduring legacy of the Medici family. The era of the Medici came to an end in 1737, giving way to the rule of Francis Stephen of Lorraine. A new chapter was opened in the grand narrative of the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. Francis Stephen, a man of Lorraine, ascended to the throne, marking a stark departure from the Medici reign. Now, Francis Stephen wasn't the hands-on type of ruler. Instead, he chose to govern Tuscany through a viceroy, an administrative decision that was quite unique for the time. This viceroy, acting as the representative of the Grand Duke, held the reins of Tuscany, implementing policies and managing affairs as directed by Francis Stephen. The reign of Francis Stephen was a period of transition for Tuscany. He strove to modernize the region, introducing reforms that aimed to streamline governance and improve the lives of the Tuscan people. However, the path was not always smooth. Francis Stephen faced challenges as he navigated the intricacies of ruling an Italian monarchy in the 18th century. He contended with the legacy of the Medici, the expectations of the Tuscan people, and the ever-changing political landscape of Europe. Yet, despite the hurdles, Francis Stephen's rule brought about significant changes to Tuscany. He continued the Medici's tradition of patronage of the arts and sciences, contributing to the cultural richness of the region. His reign, though different in many ways from that of the Medici, was still a crucial part of Tuscany's history, shaping its future and leaving an indelible mark on its past. The reign of Francis Stephen of Lorraine, like all periods of history, was a complex tapestry of triumphs and trials, of progress and challenges. It was a time when Tuscany underwent significant transformations, evolving under the rule of a foreign duke and his viceroy. Despite the changes in rule, the legacy of the Medici continued to shape the development of Tuscany. Even as Francis Stephen sat on the throne, the influence of the Medici could still be felt, their contributions to art, architecture, and the spirit of Tuscany living on. Indeed, the past has a way of echoing into the present, shaping the course of history. And in Tuscany, this echo was the resounding legacy of the Medici and the dynamic rule of Francis Stephen. The turn of the 19th century brought about a new era in Tuscany's history. As Europe was shaken by the seismic shifts of the Napoleonic era, Tuscany was not immune to these dramatic changes. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military and political leader, cast a long shadow over the continent, and Tuscany was caught up in this sweeping tide of change. During the Napoleonic era, the Grand Duchy of Tuscany was transformed into the Kingdom of Etruria, a puppet state under the influence of Napoleon. This period was marked by upheaval and change, as the traditional order was upended and new systems and structures were put in place. However, the Kingdom of Etruria was short-lived. After the collapse of the Napoleonic system in 1814, the Grand Duchy was restored. This restoration was not a simple return to the past, but rather a complex process of negotiation and adjustment. Tuscany had to navigate the new political landscape of post-Napoleonic Europe, balancing the demands of different powers and interests. The restoration of the Grand Duchy brought about a period of relative stability and prosperity. The rulers of Tuscany sought to rebuild and modernize, taking steps to promote trade, improve infrastructure, and stimulate economic growth. This period saw a resurgence of the arts and sciences, echoing the glory days of the Medici. However, this era of restoration was not without its challenges. The Grand Duchy faced opposition from various quarters, and there were tensions between the old aristocracy and the emerging middle class. These undercurrents of discontent would eventually lead to further changes in the years to come. The restoration marked a new chapter in Tuscany's history, but it was not to last. As the 19th century progressed, the Grand Duchy would once again find itself at the heart of major political changes. But that's a story for another time. The mid-19th century heralded the end of the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. An era of change was sweeping across Italy, and Tuscany wasn't immune to its effects. The year 1859 saw the Grand Duchy annexed by the United Provinces of Central Italy, a federation that sought to unify the disparate states of the Italian peninsula. This was a significant event, marking the end of Tuscany's independent status, a status it had held for nearly 300 years. Just a year later, in 1860, another monumental shift occurred. The Grand Duchy was formally annexed to the Kingdom of Sardinia, a move that was part of a larger push for the unification of Italy. This was a time of profound change, not just for the Grand Duchy, but for all of Italy. The impact of these changes on Tuscany and its people was both immediate and far-reaching. The end of the Grand Duchy meant the end of an era of relative autonomy. The Tuscan people, who had lived under the rule of the Medici and later the Lorraine, were now part of a larger, unified Italy. The centuries-old institutions and traditions of the Grand Duchy were replaced by those of the Kingdom of Sardinia and later, the Kingdom of Italy. However, it wasn't all about loss. The unification brought about many benefits, including improved communication and transportation networks and a stronger, more unified national identity. Tuscany, with its rich history and cultural heritage, played an instrumental role in this unification process, contributing to the shared sense of Italian identity that was being forged. The end of the Grand Duchy also marked the beginning of a new chapter in Tuscany's history. While the monarchy may have ended, the influence of the Medici and the Lorraine, their contributions to art, architecture, and society lived on. These influences, along with the unique culture and history of the region, have shaped the Tuscany we know and love today. The Grand Duchy of Tuscany may have ended, but its legacy lived on, shaping the region we know and love today. The Grand Duchy of Tuscany, a tale of art, architecture, and aristocracy, is a fascinating chapter in Italy's history. As we journeyed through time, we witnessed the rise of the mighty Medici, who ruled with a firm hand, yet were known for their patronage of the arts and sciences, leaving a lasting legacy that can still be seen across the Tuscan landscape. Under the reign of Francis Stephen of Lorraine, Tuscany was governed by a viceroy, marking a significant shift in the political landscape. Yet the grandeur of the Grand Duchy was not dimmed. It was during this time that Tuscany continued to flourish, despite the challenges and changes. The Napoleonic era brought with it turbulence and change, as the Grand Duchy was briefly dissolved, only to be restored in 1814. But as history has shown us, all great things must come to an end. The Grand Duchy of Tuscany was no exception. It was annexed by the United Provinces of Central Italy in 1859 and formally annexed to Sardinia the following year as part of the unification of Italy. From the rise of the Medici to the annexation by Sardinia, Tuscany's history is as rich and varied as its landscapes. The Grand Duchy of Tuscany was not just a political entity, but a testament to the enduring power of art, architecture, and aristocracy. It is a reminder of the indomitable spirit of a people and their significant contributions to the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Please subscribe, like, and share our video if you found it informative. Remember, knowledge is power.